So, imagine this: you've got a big exam coming up, or maybe you need to learn a new skill for work in record time. Your brain feels like an overstuffed suitcase. You're shoving more and more into it, but the zipper won't budge. Sound familiar? That's where this book comes in. How to learn almost anything in 48 hours isn't about working harder or cramming until your brain fries. Nope, it's about working smarter, learning faster by using the tools you already have in ways you didn't even know were possible. Here's the kicker. Most of us were never taught how to actually learn. Think about it. School throws endless information at you, but did anyone ever sit you down and explain how to make it stick? Tansel Ali, the guy who's a 4-time Australian memory champion, knows that struggle. He's cracked the code on mastering memory and learning skills, and lucky for us, he's sharing the cheat sheet. What makes this book such a game changer? For starters, the techniques aren't just theoretical fluff. They're backed by science and proven by someone who's literally memorized entire phone books. Yes, phone books. Remember those? Ali doesn't just teach you how to learn faster. He shows how it can transform your career, your studies, and even your confidence. Imagine walking into any challenge, whether it's a presentation at work or learning a new language, and knowing you've got the tools to nail it. That's the kind of superpower we're talking about here. Now, let's talk about who this book is for, because spoiler, it's pretty much everyone. Whether you're a student staring down an intimidating syllabus or a busy professional needing to upskill without burning the midnight oil, this is your toolkit. Maybe you're just someone who loves learning for the sake of it, but you feel overwhelmed by how much there is to know. Or maybe, and let's be real, you've got a tendency to forget your keys, or worse, someone's name the second after they tell you. This book has something for you too. Think of it like this: learning doesn't have to feel like climbing Mount Everest. With the right strategies, it's more like taking an elevator to the top: less sweat, more results. And who wouldn't want that? Chapter 1. The science of memory. The human brain is an astonishing organ, capable of feats that can feel almost magical when properly understood. Memory, one of its most critical functions, is not merely a tool for recalling past experiences. It is the foundation of learning, decision-making, and creativity. Yet, despite its importance, most people view memory as either a natural gift they lack or a frustratingly unreliable feature of their minds. In truth, memory is a skill, a flexible, trainable ability that, when nurtured, can unlock vast potential in nearly every area of life. At its core, memory operates through 3 primary stages: encoding, storage, and retrieval. Think of it like building a library. Encoding is akin to deciding what books to place on the shelves and organizing them logically. Storage involves ensuring those books are preserved in good condition. Retrieval is the process of finding the exact book you need when you need it. All 3 stages are vital, and weaknesses in any one can lead to lapses in memory. For instance, forgetting where you left your keys might stem from a failure in encoding. You didn't pay attention when you put them down. Conversely, struggling to remember a childhood friend's name could be a retrieval issue. The information is stored somewhere in your brain but feels out of reach. Understanding this process reveals a crucial truth. Memory is not static. Just as an athlete trains their body for better performance, anyone can train their brain to encode, store, and retrieve information more effectively. Consider visualization, one of the most powerful tools for memory enhancement. Visualization transforms abstract ideas into vivid mental images, making them easier to remember. For example, if you need to remember a grocery list, imagining a giant banana wearing sunglasses and riding a loaf of bread through your kitchen creates a mental scene far more memorable than a bland written note. The principle of association builds on visualization, connecting new information to existing knowledge in meaningful ways. The mind naturally remembers patterns and relationships, so linking unfamiliar concepts to familiar ones creates a mental web that strengthens recall. This is why mnemonic devices, such as acronyms or rhymes, are so effective. A student memorizing the order of planets might use the phrase, "My very educated mother just served us noodles," where each word corresponds to a planet in sequence. It's a simple yet powerful example of association in action. But memory is not a one-size-fits-all skill. People differ in how they process and retain information, and understanding your unique learning style is key to maximizing Memory. Some individuals thrive on visual aids like diagrams or charts, while others remember best through auditory cues, such as listening to lectures or repeating information aloud. Kinesthetic learners, on the other hand, benefit from hands-on activities and physical engagement with material. Knowing which methods resonate with you can transform your approach to learning and recall. To illustrate, consider two students preparing for the same exam. One might excel by creating colorful mind maps that visually organize the material, while the other finds success in recording themselves reading the notes and listening to them during daily commutes. Both achieve the same goal but use different strategies tailored to their learning preferences. This adaptability underscores the importance of self-awareness in memory training. Developing these skills requires practice and intentionality, but the rewards are immense. Improved memory doesn't just make academic or professional pursuits easier, it enhances everyday life. Remembering names at social events fosters stronger relationships, while efficiently recalling important details at work builds confidence and competence. Even small victories, like remembering where you left your keys, can reduce stress and make daily routines smoother. As with any skill, consistency is critical. Training your memory is less about monumental efforts and more about cultivating small, sustainable habits over time. Techniques like spaced repetition, reviewing information at gradually increasing intervals, and active recall, testing yourself rather than passively rereading, are evidence-based methods that significantly improve retention. These strategies work because they align with the brain's natural rhythms, reinforcing neural pathways without overwhelming them. Ultimately, the science of memory is as much about mindset as it is about technique. Embracing the belief that memory can be improved is the first step toward meaningful change. When approached with curiosity and dedication, memory training becomes less a chore and more a fascinating exploration of your mind's capabilities. Every small improvement builds on the last, creating a ripple effect that enhances not only what you remember but also how you think, learn, and interact with the world. Practical takeaways from this chapter can be summarized into 3 actionable steps. First, practice visualization and association regularly. Turn abstract or mundane information into vibrant mental images, and connect new ideas to familiar ones. Second, identify your learning style and experiment with techniques that align with it. Whether you're a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learner, tailor your approach to what works best for you. Finally, commit to consistent practice. Memory improvement is a journey, not a sprint, and small, steady efforts will yield remarkable results over time. Chapter 2. The power of visualization. Visualization is one of the most transformative tools for memory enhancement, rooted in the brain's innate ability to process and retain images more effectively than abstract concepts. At its core, visualization is about taking something intangible and making it vivid, turning the mundane into the extraordinary. This technique taps into the brain's natural preference for imagery, allowing complex or unfamiliar information to become more relatable, memorable, and easy to retrieve when needed. Imagine being handed a list of 10 random items to remember in sequence. Without any specific strategy, you might struggle to recall even half the list after just a few minutes. But what if you visualized each item as part of a surreal, colorful story? A pair of sunglasses could morph into an enormous pair of aviators perched on a watermelon. A loaf of bread might become a miniature bridge spanning a cup of coffee. These absurd, exaggerated images engage your imagination and lock the items into your memory far more effectively than rote memorization ever could. This is the essence of visualization, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary to make it unforgettable. The power of visualization lies in its ability to create a strong connection between new information and what is already familiar. The brain is highly adept at recognizing and recalling patterns, so when abstract or unfamiliar data is associated with vivid, creative imagery, it becomes far easier to access later. For instance, when learning historical dates, you might visualize the year 1776 as a towering stack of red, white, and blue pancakes, topped with sparklers to signify Independence Day. By anchoring the abstract concept of a year to a specific colorful image, you're giving your brain an anchor point that makes recall effortless. Mental maps are another application of visualization that demonstrates its versatility. These maps are essentially visual diagrams that organize information in a structured, easily navigable format. Instead of studying a dense paragraph of notes, a student might create a mental map with the central concept. Say, the causes of World War I, at the center with branches extending outward for each contributing factor. Each branch could be represented by a visual cue. An exploding firework for militarism, a handshake for alliances, and so on. This structure allows the brain to encode the information spatially, improving both understanding and retention. Creativity is the driving force behind visualization, and it's deeply connected to memory retention. The more unique and engaging the imagery, the stronger the memory. The human brain is wired to remember stories and emotional experiences more readily than dry facts. By weaving creativity into learning, you're not just storing information, you're building a mental narrative that gives it meaning and context. Consider the example of remembering someone's name at a party. If you meet a man named Cliff, you might visualize him standing atop a literal cliff, shouting his name into the wind. This playful mental image is far more likely to stick than simply repeating his name silently. The connection between visualization and memory becomes even clearer when considering the role of emotion and novelty in learning. The brain prioritizes experiences that stand out, especially those tied to strong emotions or unique details. Visualization amplifies these elements by encouraging learners to imagine scenarios that are outlandish, funny, or even slightly shocking. These qualities ensure that the information is not only remembered but also easily retrieved. For example, a medical student memorizing the parts of the brain might picture each region as part of a whimsical theme park, with the hippocampus as a roller coaster winding through memories and the amygdala as a haunted house of emotions. This creative framing transforms dry material into a vivid, memorable experience. Practicing visualization doesn't require innate artistic talent or hours of effort. It's a skill anyone can develop with intentionality and repetition. Start small by incorporating visual elements into daily tasks. If you're creating a to-do list, imagine each task as an exaggerated, cartoonish scene. Paying a bill might involve picturing a giant envelope chasing you with a pen, while preparing for a meeting could mean visualizing a conference table piled high with colorful documents. These small exercises train your brain to associate abstract ideas with concrete images, making the information more accessible. The benefits of visualization extend beyond memory improvement. It enhances creativity, problem-solving, and even communication. When you train yourself to think in pictures, you're also honing your ability to explain ideas clearly and compellingly to others. This is especially valuable in professional settings, where complex concepts often need to be distilled into digestible formats. Imagine presenting a business strategy as a series of vivid metaphors or visual stories rather than dense bullet points. The same principles that make visualization effective for personal learning can elevate your ability to persuade and inspire others. One of the most powerful aspects of visualization is its ability to integrate seamlessly with other memory techniques. Pairing it with association, for instance, multiplies its effectiveness. If you're learning a foreign language, you might link each new vocabulary word to a vivid image and a familiar object or phrase. For example, the French word for apple, pomme, could be visualized as a golden apple perched on the palm of your hand. By combining the new word with an engaging image and a familiar English word, you're creating multiple pathways for recall. Visualization also reinforces the principles covered in earlier chapters, such as the importance of active engagement in learning. When you create mental images, you're not passively absorbing information. You're actively shaping and interacting with it. This active engagement solidifies the memory and strengthens your ability to retrieve it later. It's a dynamic process that transforms learning from a chore into an imaginative, enjoyable experience. To put these concepts into practice, start with 3 actionable steps. First, experiment with turning abstract information into vivid mental images. Whether it's a grocery list, a set of facts, or a new skill, challenge yourself to create colorful, exaggerated scenes that make the material unforgettable. Second, explore mental maps as a tool for organizing complex information. Use diagrams and visual cues to create a structured, easily navigable framework for learning. Finally, embrace creativity in your approach. Don't be afraid to make your visualizations playful, emotional, or even a little bizarre. The more unique and engaging the imagery, the more likely it is to stick. Visualization is not just a tool for memory. It's a gateway to deeper understanding, richer creativity, and a more dynamic way of interacting with the world. Chapter 3. Chunking for efficiency. The human brain is remarkable, capable of storing vast amounts of information, but it thrives on organization and structure. Chunking is a method that leverages this natural inclination, breaking down large sets of data into smaller, more digestible pieces. This approach not only enhances memory retention but also makes complex tasks feel less overwhelming and more manageable. By grouping related information into logical clusters, chunking creates a framework that the brain can navigate with ease, much like a well-organized filing system. Consider how we naturally remember phone numbers. A string of 10 digits, such as 867-530-9642, is cumbersome to recall when presented as a single block. But when divided into smaller groups, like 867-530-9642, the number becomes far more manageable. This segmentation mirrors the brain's preference for processing information in smaller, meaningful units, illustrating how chunking simplifies complex data. The technique is not limited to numbers. It can be applied to any type of information, from learning a new language to preparing for a presentation. One of the keys to effective chunking is finding patterns or connections within the material. Patterns create a sense of familiarity, allowing the brain to store information more efficiently. For instance, a student studying historical events might group them by time periods or themes, such as revolutions, technological advancements, or significant wars. By creating these categories, the student reduces cognitive load and improves recall by anchoring new information to existing knowledge. Real-world applications of chunking abound, demonstrating its versatility and impact. Memorizing a speech is a classic example. Instead of attempting to retain the entire text word for word, a speaker might divide it into thematic sections, focusing on the key points of each. This approach allows the speaker to concentrate on the flow and structure of their argument, using the smaller chunks as cues to trigger detailed memories of the content. Similarly, when preparing a presentation, breaking the material into distinct slides or topics ensures that the audience can follow along without feeling overwhelmed, while the presenter benefits from a clear framework. Incorporating chunking into daily life can significantly enhance productivity and time management. Consider the process of tackling a large project. Faced with an extensive list of tasks, it's easy to feel paralyzed by the sheer volume of work. Chunking offers a solution by breaking the project into smaller, actionable steps. For example, writing a book might be divided into stages such as research, outlining, drafting, and editing. Each stage can then be further segmented into specific tasks, such as gathering resources for a chapter or revising a particular section. By focusing on one chunk at a time, the project becomes less daunting and more achievable. Visualization plays a complementary role in chunking, bridging the concepts discussed in previous chapters. When information is organized into chunks, visualizing these clusters can enhance comprehension and retention. For instance, a medical student learning the names of bones in the human body might group them by region, skull, spine, arms, and legs, and create mental images for each cluster. These visual associations act as cues, making it easier to retrieve the information later. The synergy between chunking and visualization demonstrates how memory techniques can reinforce one another, amplifying their effectiveness. Chunking also fosters creativity by encouraging a fresh perspective on information. Breaking down material into smaller units often reveals patterns or connections that might otherwise go unnoticed. This can be particularly valuable in problem-solving scenarios, where reorganizing data into chunks allows for a clearer view of potential solutions. For instance, an entrepreneur brainstorming a new product might group customer feedback into categories such as pain points, desires, and common suggestions. By organizing the data this way, they can identify trends and prioritize features that will resonate most with their audience. Despite its simplicity, chunking requires intentionality and practice to master. It's important to identify logical divisions within the material and resist the temptation to create chunks that are too large or too arbitrary. The goal is to find a balance, grouping information into units that are manageable but still meaningful. Experimentation is key, as different types of information may lend themselves to different chunking strategies. For example, while chronological order might work well for historical data, thematic grouping might be more effective for understanding a novel or preparing a business pitch. Practicing chunking in everyday situations can sharpen the skill and make it second nature. Start small by applying the technique to routine tasks. When grocery shopping, instead of memorizing an entire list, group items by category: fruits, vegetables, dairy, and so on. This not only makes the list easier to recall, but also streamlines the shopping process. Similarly, when learning a new skill, break it into smaller components and focus on mastering one aspect at a time. A musician learning a new piece might practice each section separately before integrating them into the whole composition. The benefits of chunking extend beyond memory improvement to include increased focus and reduced stress. By breaking down overwhelming tasks into smaller, more manageable parts, chunking minimizes the feeling of being stretched too thin. This clarity allows individuals to concentrate on one task at a time, leading to greater efficiency and a sense of accomplishment. For students, professionals, and anyone managing multiple responsibilities, chunking offers a practical way to stay organized and maintain momentum. Ultimately, chunking is more than a memory technique. It's a mindset that emphasizes structure and intentionality. By dividing information and tasks into meaningful segments, it transforms chaos into clarity, empowering individuals to tackle challenges with confidence and ease. The practical applications of chunking are limitless, from improving academic performance to enhancing productivity and even fostering creativity. By integrating this approach into daily life, individuals can unlock their full potential and achieve their goals with greater efficiency and less effort. Chapter 4. Mnemonics and memory palaces. Memory techniques have existed for centuries, rooted in the recognition that the human brain thrives on patterns, associations, and vivid imagery. Mnemonics and memory palaces stand out as two of the most powerful tools in the memory enhancement toolkit. These methods, though ancient in origin, remain as relevant today as they were in the time of Greek orators who used them to deliver long speeches flawlessly without notes. The beauty of these techniques lies in their simplicity and adaptability. They're not just for scholars or professionals, but can be harnessed by anyone seeking to improve their recall and learning efficiency. Imagine trying to memorize a list of 20 unrelated words. If presented in isolation, these words quickly slip from memory, a casualty of the brain's tendency to discard unstructured data. But add a mnemonic device, perhaps creating a sentence where the first letter of each word forms a memorable phrase, and the list becomes significantly easier to recall. This transformation happens because mnemonics link the abstract to the familiar, creating mental anchors that the brain can latch onto. For instance, to remember the order of planets in the solar system, many children learn the sentence, "My very educated mother just served us noodles," with each word corresponding to a planet from Mercury to Neptune. By creating this bridge between new information and established patterns, mnemonics make the unfamiliar accessible. The memory palace, also known as the method of loci, takes the concept of association to the next level by harnessing the brain's innate ability to remember places. At its core, this technique involves visualizing a familiar location, such as a house or a route you walk daily, and mentally placing pieces of information within that space. For example, if you're trying to memorize a speech, you might assign each section of the speech to a different room in your house. As you deliver the speech, you walk through the house in your mind, retrieving the information from its assigned location. This method works because spatial memory is one of the brain's strongest suits. We're naturally adept at recalling physical environments and can leverage this strength to organize and retain abstract data. Building a memory palace starts with choosing a setting you know well, such as your home, office, or even a favorite park. Once you've selected your location, you'll mentally map it out, identifying distinct points or landmarks that can serve as storage spots for information. The more vivid and specific these points are, the better. Next, you associate each piece of information with one of these landmarks, creating a mental image that ties the data to the location. For instance, if you're trying to remember the parts of a cell, You might imagine a nucleus as a glowing orb on your living room table or mitochondria as tiny engines buzzing on your kitchen counter. The key is to make these images as striking and unusual as possible, as the brain is more likely to remember the extraordinary than the mundane. Mnemonics and memory palaces are particularly effective when combined with visualization, a concept explored in the previous chapter. Visualization adds depth to these techniques, turning abstract ideas into tangible mental constructs. For example, if you're learning a list of historical dates, you could use mnemonics to link each date to a keyword and then place these keywords in a memory palace. To recall 1776, the year of American independence, you might picture a firework display exploding over your front door. The combination of a mnemonic device with a vivid image and a familiar location creates a multi-layered memory cue that is hard to forget. These techniques also shine in professional and academic settings. Consider the challenge of remembering technical jargon for a presentation. Instead of rote memorization, you could use a mnemonic to create a story that links the terms together, then assign each part of the story to a location in your memory palace. Similarly, students preparing for exams can use mnemonics to simplify complex concepts and memory palaces to organize their study material. A medical student, for instance, might place different anatomical terms in various rooms of a virtual hospital, associating each term with an object or scene that reinforces its meaning. By weaving information into narratives and spaces, learners can transform dry facts into engaging, memorable experiences. Even names and faces, which many people find notoriously difficult to remember, can benefit from these techniques. When meeting someone new, you might create a mnemonic that links their name to an object or characteristic. If you meet someone named Rose, you could imagine them holding a bouquet of roses, placing this image in a specific spot in your memory palace. This layered approach ensures that the name is not only stored but also easily retrievable. Over time, these strategies become second nature, turning the once dreaded task of remembering names into an enjoyable challenge. The effectiveness of mnemonics and memory palaces lies in their ability to engage multiple senses and cognitive pathways. By involving spatial memory, visual imagery, and narrative structures, these techniques create robust mental frameworks that resist forgetting. They also encourage creativity and playfulness, making learning an active, enjoyable process rather than a passive chore. This shift in perspective can have profound implications, particularly for those who've struggled with traditional learning methods. Instead of seeing memory as a limitation, individuals can begin to view it as a skill, one that improves with practice and innovation. Chapter 5. Practical applications. Memory techniques are not just intellectual exercises or party tricks. They are powerful tools that can transform how we approach everyday challenges. Whether you are trying to learn a new language, absorb technical skills for a demanding job, or prepare for a critical exam, the principles of effective memory use can make the process faster, more enjoyable, and remarkably effective. The key to success lies in understanding how to integrate these methods seamlessly into your unique goals and environment. Take the example of learning a new language. Many learners are daunted by the sheer volume of vocabulary, grammar rules, and idiomatic expressions that need to be mastered. This task, however, becomes far less overwhelming when approached with memory techniques. Mnemonics can be particularly helpful here. To remember a foreign word, you can create a vivid mental image that connects the word's sound to its meaning. For instance, if you're learning the French word for cat, chat, you might picture a cat wearing a chef's hat, playfully tying the sound of the word to an easily visualized scenario. Memory palaces add another layer of structure by giving you a place to store these mental associations, allowing you to organize vocabulary by categories or themes. For example, you might assign kitchen-related words to your actual kitchen and transport-related words to your garage. By repeatedly revisiting these mental locations, you reinforce the associations, making retrieval nearly effortless. Technical skills, particularly those requiring mastery of intricate details, can also benefit greatly from these methods. Consider someone learning to code. Programming languages often involve syntax rules and libraries that can overwhelm even the most diligent learners. Here, chunking and mnemonics work together to simplify the task. Instead of memorizing dozens of commands in isolation, a learner could group related commands into chunks based on functionality, such as input, output operations, or data manipulation. Mnemonics can then be used to create memorable phrases or images for each chunk, making it easier to recall not just the commands but their purpose. For example, the term loop might be visualized as a racetrack, emphasizing the repetitive nature of loops in coding. These mental shortcuts not only reduce cognitive load but also make learning more engaging. Exam preparation is another area where memory techniques shine. Students often face the daunting task of memorizing vast amounts of information under time pressure. Traditional methods like rereading notes or highlighting textbooks are often inefficient and lead to shallow learning. By contrast, memory techniques encourage active engagement with the material. Imagine a medical student studying human anatomy. Instead of merely reading about the cranial nerves, they could use a mnemonic to remember their names, such as on old Olympus's towering tops, a friendly Viking grew vines and hops, where each word corresponds to the first letter of a nerve. To go a step further, they might create a memory palace, placing each nerve in a specific room of a virtual hospital and associating it with an image that reinforces its function. The olfactory nerve, responsible for smell, could be represented by a bouquet of flowers in the lobby. This multisensory approach ensures deeper understanding and retention. Even beyond academic or professional pursuits, memory techniques can enhance everyday tasks. For instance, they can help you remember names and faces, a skill that holds immense social and professional value. When introduced to someone new, try associating their name with a distinctive feature or an imaginative visual cue. If you meet a person named Lily who has bright green eyes, you might picture a lily flower with leaves the color of their eyes. Over time, this habit becomes second nature, enabling you to recall names effortlessly, even in large social settings. One common barrier to effective memory use is distraction. In a world saturated with notifications, multitasking, and constant demands on our attention, staying focused can be a challenge. Fortunately, memory techniques can also help mitigate these issues by fostering deeper concentration. The act of creating a mnemonic or constructing a memory palace requires you to actively engage with the material, drawing your focus away from distractions. Moreover, breaking information into smaller, manageable chunks makes it easier to maintain attention, as each chunk feels like a small, achievable goal. By cultivating this focused approach, you not only improve your memory but also build the mental discipline to tackle distractions more effectively. Another obstacle many people face is adapting these techniques to their specific goals and environments. The good news is that memory techniques are highly flexible and can be tailored to suit any context. For instance, if you are a visual learner, you might prioritize creating vivid mental images, while an auditory learner might focus on crafting rhymes or songs. The key is to experiment and find what resonates with you. If you're preparing for a presentation, you might use a combination of chunking and mnemonics to outline your key points, assigning each chunk to a part of your memory palace. Alternatively, if you're trying to master a new skill, such as playing an instrument, you could use visualization to mentally rehearse finger placements or chord progressions, reinforcing muscle memory alongside cognitive recall. The adaptability of these techniques ensures that they can meet you wherever you are, making them a practical choice for learners of all types. The power of memory techniques lies not just in their ability to help you retain information but also in the confidence they instill. By breaking down seemingly insurmountable tasks into manageable steps, these methods demonstrate that even the most complex subjects can be mastered with the right approach. They transform learning from a passive process into an active, creative endeavor, empowering you to tackle challenges with curiosity and enthusiasm. Moreover, by integrating these techniques into your daily routine, you develop a mindset of continuous improvement, viewing each new piece of information as an opportunity to hone your skills. This shift in perspective can be life-changing, opening doors to personal and professional growth that once seemed out of reach. Chapter 6. The 48-hour learning plan. Imagine the potential of transforming your understanding of a complex topic in just 2 days. The 48-hour learning plan is not about cramming. It's about crafting a deliberate, efficient strategy to focus your energy, sharpen your memory, and absorb information effectively. By combining structured objectives, smart time allocation, and proven memory techniques, you can unlock a new level of accelerated learning that delivers both immediate results and long-term retention. The first step in creating a 2-day learning framework is defining clear objectives. Vague goals like understand chemistry or learn guitar are not only unhelpful but also discouraging because they lack measurable endpoints. Instead, articulate specific, actionable milestones. For instance, if you're diving into chemistry, your objective might be master the periodic table or learn stoichiometric equations. If you're exploring the guitar, your goal could be play 3 beginner-level songs confidently. By narrowing your focus, you give yourself a clear target and a roadmap to follow, reducing overwhelm and maximizing motivation. Once objectives are in place, it's time to structure your schedule. A productive 48-hour plan balances intense focus with essential breaks, mimicking the natural rhythms of your brain's capacity to absorb and process information. The Pomodoro technique, which alternates 25-minute work intervals with 5-minute breaks, is a powerful starting point. However, for extended study sessions, you might find it helpful to expand these cycles to 45 minutes of focus followed by 10 to 15 minutes of rest. These breaks aren't just a chance to stretch your legs. They allow your brain to consolidate what you've just learned, laying the groundwork for deeper understanding. Day 1 is about building the foundation. Start by surveying the material and identifying key concepts. For example, if your goal is to learn about the periodic table, you might begin by categorizing elements into groups and periods, noting patterns in their properties. Visualization tools like color-coded charts or digital apps can make this information more digestible and engaging. If you're tackling guitar, your first step might involve learning basic chords and practicing their transitions. This is where memory techniques like chunking and mnemonics come into play, breaking down the material into manageable pieces that align with your brain's natural preference for organization. Active engagement is critical during this phase. Passive activities like reading or watching instructional videos have their place but should be supplemented with hands-on practice and recall exercises. For example, after reviewing a video on chemical bonding, close the video and attempt to sketch out the process yourself from memory. Similarly, after practicing a set of guitar chords, challenge yourself to play a simple song using only those chords. This combination of input and output solidifies your learning, turning theoretical knowledge into practical skills. As you move into the second half of day 1, begin layering in complexity. Building on the basics, start exploring how individual pieces connect to form a broader understanding. If you're studying chemistry, this might involve working through practice problems that apply concepts like electron configuration or bonding types. In guitar, you could experiment with combining chords into progressions, focusing on rhythm and timing. These activities not only deepen your knowledge but also provide opportunities to troubleshoot and refine your technique, ensuring that gaps in understanding are addressed early. Day 2 shifts the focus to application and review. The morning should be dedicated to practical exercises that challenge you to apply what you've learned in real-world contexts. For chemistry, this might mean tackling mock exam questions or creating your own periodic trends chart from memory. For guitar, you could practice performing a song from start to finish without stopping, even if it means simplifying certain sections. The key is to simulate the conditions under which you'll eventually use your new skills, building confidence and resilience. Afternoon sessions on day 2 are ideal for review and reinforcement. Spaced repetition, a technique that involves reviewing material at gradually increasing intervals, is especially effective here. Create flashcards, either physical or digital, to test yourself on key concepts, revisiting those you struggle with more frequently. For physical skills like playing guitar, focus on repeating difficult sections until they feel natural, using a metronome or backing track to maintain consistent timing. The goal is to identify and strengthen weak areas, ensuring a well-rounded mastery of the material. Throughout the 48 hours, it's important to leverage tools and resources that complement your efforts. Apps like Anki for spaced repetition, YouTube tutorials for practical demonstrations, and community forums for peer support can all enhance your learning experience. However, be mindful not to over-rely on any single resource. The most effective learning happens when you actively engage with the material, rather than passively consuming content. Equally crucial is the role of rest and recovery. Sleep, in particular, plays a vital role in memory consolidation, allowing your brain to process and store the information you've worked so hard to absorb. Aim for at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night during your 48-hour learning journey. And consider incorporating short naps if you feel fatigued. Physical activity, such as a quick walk or stretching routine, can also boost focus and energy levels, keeping your mind sharp and your motivation high. The beauty of the 48-hour learning plan lies in its adaptability. While the framework provides structure, it's flexible enough to accommodate individual preferences and needs. If you find that shorter study sessions work better for you, adjust your schedule accordingly. If you thrive on collaboration, involve a friend or mentor in your learning process, using their feedback to refine your understanding. By tailoring the plan to suit your unique style, you ensure that the learning experience remains both effective and enjoyable. As the second day draws to a close, take time to reflect on your progress. Review your initial objectives and evaluate how well you've achieved them. Celebrate your successes, no matter how small, and identify areas where further practice might be needed. This reflection not only reinforces your learning but also provides valuable insights for future 48-hour learning projects. By approaching each new challenge with the same deliberate, structured methodology, you build a lifelong habit of efficient, purposeful learning that extends far beyond the immediate goal. Imagine this: you're standing in front of a mountain, and at first glance it looks impossible to climb. It's massive, intimidating, and you can't even see the peak through the clouds. That mountain, that's your learning goal. Maybe it's a new language, a technical skill, or just trying to remember where you left your keys for once. But what if I told you that with the right tools, you could not only climb that mountain but do it faster and more efficiently than you ever thought possible? Sounds a little like a superhero origin story, right? Well, it kind of is, except the superhero is you. Here's the secret. Mastering how to learn is like getting the blueprint to the mountain. It's not about being born with some magical ability or having endless hours in the day. It's about using strategies that work, plain and simple. You've just spent time diving into a treasure chest of tools and techniques, and now, it's time to wrap it all up and see what's possible when you put them into action. Think about the idea of learning not as a skill set you're stuck with, but as a muscle you can train. Some people might say, "Oh, I'm just bad at remembering things," or "learning isn't my thing." But guess what? That's like saying, "I can't lift weights" before ever stepping into a gym. The truth is, you absolutely can. You just need the right workout plan. And here's the kicker: once you start using these techniques, you won't just get by. You'll actually enjoy the process of learning. Imagine walking away from a challenge thinking, "Wow, I nailed that," instead of, "Well, that was painful." Let's talk about what you can do with this newfound learning superpower. Want to boost productivity? Done. How about nailing that presentation without relying on endless flashcards? Easy. You'll not only save time but also build confidence that spills into every area of your life. Picture yourself walking into a meeting, knowing you've got every name, stat, and point ready to go. Or maybe you're studying for an exam and realize you've cut your study time in half because your brain is finally working with you, not against you. And if you're thinking, "That sounds great for some people, but what about me?" Let me stop you right there. This works for everyone. Seriously, whether you're a professional juggling a million deadlines, a student drowning in textbooks, or someone who just wants to keep up with trivia night at the bar, these strategies fit. You don't have to be a certain age, have a particular background, or even be super tech savvy. All you need is a willingness to try, and maybe a little patience if things feel clunky at first. Remember, every expert started as a beginner. Here's where it gets exciting. The ripple effect. When you get better at learning, everything else starts to feel a little easier, too. Need to tackle a new project at work? No problem, because you've trained your brain to break it down into manageable pieces. Want to explore a new hobby? You've got the confidence to dive in without overthinking. And that sense of, "I can do this?" It's addictive. You'll start seeking out challenges instead of avoiding them. How cool is that? So where do we go from here? Well, you've got the tools, the map, and the know-how. The rest is up to you. What's that one thing you've always wanted to learn but never thought you could? This is your sign to go for it. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about taking the first step. And who knows? That mountain you thought was impossible to climb might just turn out to be your favorite view. Let's get started.